Good evening, and thank you for joining us for the dedication of the David Rumsey Map Center. I'm Salim Mohammed, head and curator of the center, and I'm honored, humbled, and privileged to be the first to welcome you to this magnificent place that is called the David Rumsey Map Center. It's wonderful to look out, see so many familiar faces, some new faces as well, and I hope I have the opportunity to connect with many of you, all of you, this evening. Please take your time and enjoy every aspect of the center, especially the exhibit. We have a very large exhibit in place, both downstairs at the Peterson Gallery and Munger Rotunda, and part 2 over here. There are lots of other things that you can play with around here. All the maps are available online via QR codes, so you can actually just take your phone and access it digitally. Also, please pick up a schedule of events. There's a whole week of events happening after today. So please pick up a schedule. It's over there, and please attend. There's a lot of fun things we've planned for this coming week. Before we move on to the next speaker, I just want to. This is my only chance to thank my wife Sarah, way at the back. She's looked after both our kids, 1-year-old and 3-year-old, many weekends, many nights. So thank you. I now like to introduce Julie Sweetkind-Singer, head of our Brandon Earth Science Library and Map Collections.
Thank you, Salim. Good evening, everyone. Prior to joining Stanford, I had the distinct pleasure of working for David Rumsey as his map cataloger, as well as a map librarian for Glenn McLaughlin. When I arrived 16 years ago, establishing these 2 collections at Stanford was my main goal. I didn't know we'd get a center that was so magnificent, but I think, and I hope, both for Glenn and David, that I've done you proud and a nice place to put your materials. This is not... So it's not only an exciting time for me personally, but this is a momentous day for Stanford, to have such a forward-thinking center on campus that will plug into almost any discipline and whose services are some of the most sophisticated the world over. As Salim said, it's wonderful to be surrounded by friends. Many of you helped us achieve this milestone. I'm particularly honored to announce that with the opening of the center, we have 2 major programming opportunities planned, because it's important to remember that it's not just the room, it's a programming that we do around the room. First, I'd like to thank our dear friends from the California Map Society. We're going to soon announce a graduate student paper competition and award to any graduate student in the state of California who uses materials from the Rumsey Map Center. It'll be a yearly writing prize that will engage and encourage students to explore the wonderful maps that are part of the center. The Map Society will also underwrite a yearly lecture by a scholar, a writer, or a cartographer for the next 5 years to present at the center. Our close friend, Barry Ruderman, has established the Barry Lawrence Ruderman Lecture Series. It will be a full-day conference starting in 2017 that will examine the interplay of physical maps with the digital and cutting-edge ways of scholarship that will leverage these cartographic materials. This will be an every other year lecture series and will undoubtedly rival other map lecture series and will draw people from around the globe to Stanford. Lastly, we stand here today because of 2 big thinkers who connected in a way to make this a reality. David Rumsey is the reason we're standing in this beautiful center, and we will forever be grateful to both you and to Abby. I also want to express, on behalf of the staff, our appreciation to Michael Keller, whose leadership as a university librarian over the past 25 years continues to make Stanford Libraries a leader and a desired partner for institutions as far as the Vatican to the University of Cape Town in South Africa and many other corners of the world. Mike, your investment and encouragement throughout this endeavor is most appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Keller.
Well, it's a great pleasure to see you all here. It's a great pleasure to see so many faculty faces here. And I know that I'll be seeing many, many students here as well. I have some slides. Just a few slides. This is Yosemite, of course. These are images of about 2/3 of the team that made this happen. I can't name them all, but this is a great library staff. It's a great library because it's a great library staff. We're surrounded by fantastic objects that will drive inspiration, innovation, research, reports, literacy, all the values of a great university. These folks, now I'm showing the contributions of the Digital Library Systems and Services Group to this effort here, but many of these services, I'm pointing at SearchWorks, EarthWorks, Spotlight, Mirador. I don't see the IIIF, the International Image Interoperability Framework, the Stanford Digital Repository. All of these are services that have been devised for the Stanford faculty and the Stanford student body that are used for teaching, for research, and for the cultural custodianship for which we are responsible here in the libraries over the next centuries and even millennia. All these numbers that you're seeing are increasing as we speak. So if you see 353 single maps, well, they will be joined by 60,000 maps from the Rumsey Digital Map Collection. So the numbers will increase. So first I want to thank all the staff that were involved in working with David and Abby and Noel and Tam, the architects, and the other folks, specialists, the LG folks that are back here, for putting all this together and making it happen, realizing that as technology advances, we will be in the forefront. We'll be at that cutting and bleeding edge, making good use of technology to make this material accessible and malleable in a way so that the faculty can realize their best ideas and transmit their best ideas in interesting ways to their students and to their colleagues. From our mailroom to our access services teams, our metadata folk to our digital library staff, and our really expert imaging group, to our fundraising and PR team, to the extraordinary facilities group headed up by Edgar Maxey. And Edgar, where are you? There you are. These folks have been involved deeply and dearly for many months, a couple of years actually, and taking the concept that David and I and Abby have discussed and turning it into reality. Lots and lots of work, lots and lots of evenings and weekends, as Salim has testified. There is nothing like this in this country that's accessible. I suspect that the secret agencies of the government have these sorts of rooms and more. We will never see them, thank goodness. But this is really an attainment that we all should be proud of, and I hope we make good use of. Having this collection, this service, grow out of the library's many services and many opportunities allows us to manage these objects, to manage their digital avatars, to preserve them, to distribute them not just in physical form but in digital form, not just here at the Stanford campus, but to our many campuses overseas, but also to our colleague libraries and readers really anywhere. This infrastructure, much of which you see displayed in words here, is really vast and really influential. The Stanford Digital Repository, I take the example, is a model for digital archives in other places. SearchWorks, EarthWorks are all team projects done here, but are being used by many, many other institutions in other places, including a great many national libraries, not including, I would say, the Library of Congress, however. So when I travel around, as I do, to get new projects started for my staff to deal with, I get a lot of praise for the work that others have done here. And of course, the objects of this sort of an enterprise, some of which is displayed on this screen, is to make it possible for the faculty to do their research, to communicate their research, and to use their great ideas and inspiration, as well as these collections, to teach our students and develop new scholars. So this center is meant to fertilize that well-trod ground, but in new ways. I want to thank Tom Kramer, who's standing right there, as the leader of this effort that has delivered so much service to this enterprise, the David Rumsey Map Center, but also to the entire Stanford campus. Tom, you should get a round of applause. Faculty have long relied on maps in their teaching and research. From medicine to classics, our staff has worked with the likes of Dr. Eric J. Nelson, a pediatric global health physician, to help create a base map to respond to a cholera outbreak in Bangladesh. And on the other side of our campus, the Interdisciplinary Digital Research Team, CIDR, has worked with Walter Scheidel, a professor of classics and history, to develop Orbis, which expresses Roman communication costs and transportation costs in terms of time and expense by simulating movement along the principal routes of the Roman road network and the sea network in various seasons of the year. It is a marvelous interactive model that reconstructs the duration and financial cost of travel in antiquity. Both projects, based on maps, provide us with examples of the types of collaboration that will happen within these walls and via the center's online collection. Collaboration among faculty members, with students, graduate students and undergraduate students, and with library staff. I mention this to emphasize the infusion of David's collection and his tremendously generous gift is a game changer for Stanford and for our libraries, and thus for the Stanford possibilities for research and teaching. I've known David and Abby for a long time. Abby actually longer than David, thanks to our work in libraries over these years. And David only since, 97 or 96 or 95, somewhere in there. They serve on the library's advisory council, and they've given us good advice, and they will continue to do so. I'm very appreciative of David's collecting instincts. I'm very appreciative of David and Abby's great intellectual capacities, and I'm really thrilled with their desire to make their capacities and their collection accessible, not just to Stanford people, but through the digital collection that we will assume responsibility for, to the rest of the world. These two, who I call friends, are a dynamic couple. Abby just published a book, which we launched here some weeks ago. They're deeply invested in the libraries, and they're invested in it not as a vision of the past, but a vision of the future, how it might be and how we might craft it over the next 20, 30, 50, 100 years. So David and Abby, my thanks to you both for your great efforts. For your collecting instincts, and for your willingness to engage with us so very well over the years. I'm often asked about the future of libraries and the digital aspects of libraries, and people sometimes worry out loud about whether there will be books and all the rest that you've heard. I'm not worried about that, because in this room, in this center, you see instantiated the new library. It is both digital and physical. It deals with and respects the ancient traditions while converting those ancient traditions into new and modern uses of great utility in our mixed roles here in these kinds of places: research, teaching, and cultural custodianship. We actively collect these items. We continue to collect these kinds of items, but we also are collecting and making digital avatars and born digital materials for teaching and for scholarship. It is a hybrid library. You're standing in the middle of a great instantiation of it. The dynamic interplay of the physical and digital is what we've been doing for the last 25 years. We'll continue it forever, I suspect, although it's increasingly more a digital environment. Our team of developers has built some wonderful tools, some of which you see described here, that allow our students and our scholars to grab items from as far away as the great libraries of Europe and Asia, and then to combine them with other information they either develop or discover here, and to present them in some new and interesting ways to readers here and across the world. We have built a consortium of global institutions around the world that are using the same image standards so that more items can be accessible from these other places and used here at Stanford. We have never had a great collection of medieval manuscripts at Stanford. We started collecting too late. We've acquired a few, but we now can get access to the digital avatars of such items from some other great libraries, including the British Library, Oxford, Cambridge, the Bibliothèque Nationale de France, Bayerische Staatsbibliothek, the Vatican, all because of inventions here and guided here that make possible the use of those images in very interesting ways here at Stanford and, of course, lots of other places. Elaine Treharne, a professor of English and a renowned medievalist focusing on early British manuscripts, has used this imagery, which we call Mirador, in a recent online class that she taught to thousands of students with our colleague Ben Albritton in over 90 countries all at once. And now we get to add maps to this equation, thanks to David Rumsey and lots of other friends who have been helpful in building and stocking this great David Rumsey Map Center. This big screen makes those very high resolutions come to life. Let me stress, however, that the digital and physical are dependent on one another. We cannot, nor should we ever consider becoming an either-or library. There are some disciplines, particularly in the sciences, whose nature is now more digital. But these new tools of scholarship and teaching rely on the physical form for their success. And these tools allow the physical object to be manipulated and viewed in ways the physical simply cannot offer. And geographical information systems and other digital software allow for new narratives to be formed. And indeed, we have the capacity here at Stanford to take ideas about what might be done from our faculty and from our graduate students and from our undergraduate students and turn them into some kind of a virtual reality. This center, as I said, embodies what it means to be a 21st century library, and it aligns well with the direction we have been going along all these years, but also aligns very well with where Stanford has been going all these many years. David understands how much has gone unexplored on the maps that surround us. He is the reason we have these amazing screens and over 65,000 high-resolution digital copies of the maps. Some of the maps he has donated. We're still digitizing, so is he. And apparently he's still acquiring maps, which is great. There'll be no greater joy for those of us who have been involved with this, but especially for me and David, when the day comes that a great discovery has occurred in this center using both the physical and the digital attributes of this collection. For our faculty in the audience, this is your center. We look forward to your insight on how it can be best used to support your areas of expertise and your great ideas. And for the students here tonight, this center is also yours. I get great satisfaction when I hear that the faculty are bringing their undergraduate classes into special collections to view and work with material that maybe has never been touched before for scholarship and teaching. That was a goal that I had 25 years ago. Indeed, the first department I visited when I joined up here in September of '93 was special collections. I remain quite committed to the building of great special collections. Collections. And I want to pay tribute to Roberto Trujillo, who's standing right next to Tom Kramer, who's been such a great leader in this whole effort as well. Thank you, Roberto. There is hardly a subject that isn't affected by cartography. There's hardly a subject that doesn't benefit both from the actual attributes of these objects and the digital avatars of them, but also of the idea of exploration. And as those of you who weren't here earlier might learn, there are objects here in these cases along the side wall here of navigation and exploration that enable people to build maps and to navigate either using them or trying to get to where they need to go without them. These were donated by Paul Sappho. Paul, where are you? There he is. And it's an important attribute of this center. So we have developed the center to inspire, to create curiosity, to stimulate thinking, to permit and support exploration of all kinds, and I'm really quite confident that will happen. I'd like David and Abby to stand now and turn around and receive your thanks for their great work and their great contribution to Stanford. Also, I'd like the friends who have contributed to this effort with treasure and with objects to stand, or at least wave your hand so we can recognize you. Glenn, there you are. There you are. The architects who were involved, Nolan Tam and DevCon Construction, both deserve a great round of applause. Our buddies from LG who made these screens for us and got them here, these are very, very new. For my staff, thank you. It's been a great adventure, and it continues. David, over to you.
Thank you, Mike. I'd like to also add my personal appreciation to each of the center's founding friends and for your, there we go. To the founding friends and supporters for all of your generosity, for your friendship and your trust, really, in us. I knew this Map Center was something that I was personally committed to seeing built, but when I heard of the significant support that was being raised for the center, I was really humbled. Your generosity has provided us not only with the resources to keep thinking big, but also beginning to underwrite all of the things that have to come in the future that we've talked about tonight. Now that the center is open and functioning, we actually start business next Monday. I know Julie's quite excited and full of anticipation, as is Salim and all the staff. Now that we're getting rolling, I know that we can count on the continued support of our friends, ideas as well as treasure. And I hope many new friends that might be here in the audience tonight can join us. I want to say a few words about my own personal experience in giving to Stanford. As many of you know, I'm not a Stanford alum. I went to Yale College, Yale Graduate School in Art, actually. But the personal and intellectual embrace that I've experienced working with all of my colleagues at this remarkable library has really been extraordinary. I cannot imagine another library that has been so entrepreneurial, so ready to think outside the box. We never could have built this center that you're seeing here tonight without that. Of course, Stanford wanted my collection and treasure. That's normal. But they also made, and this was so important to me, they made a home for my ideas and my innovations and my dreams. This multiplies the effect of my giving 10 times. And I know that they will continue to innovate while we're going forward. As Mike has said, I think this is the most exciting time for libraries in decades. It's a great place to be. It's a great place where amazing things are happening. And I hope that many of you will help us with your involvement as we navigate through the science and the technology, the history, and the art of mapping. I want to say special thanks to Julie, Salim, Deirdre, Emily, TJ, Becky, Mike, Rob, Edgar, Mimi, Gabrielle, and so many others who I had the pleasure of working kind of 24/7, I think we've been working, many weekends, long nights, to get to this finish line. I also want to thank my team that is here from San Francisco, who have helped me to build my digital library over the past 15 years. Librarians Dan Holm, who is here, and Fatima Van Buren, who could not be here, sends her regrets, and imaging specialists Glenn Bachman and Brandon Rumsey. When a collector like me donates their collection, they're making a decision to entrust a personal legacy to an institution. It's a deeply personal, even emotional decision. You really want to know that it's going to be well handled, managed, and protected with the same integrity that you did. There's no doubt in my mind that Stanford Libraries will do that and provide for the long-term care and security needed to keep it in use, both the physical and the digital, for generations. My vision for this center is as a meeting place for all, from all disciplines, not just those of us who adore maps, and of course, we're all welcome here, but others from the arts and sciences, even professional schools. Maps embody so much data, so much information, not just about geography, but about a society or a civilization, how people lived, the values those people had. It's all there. It can be teased out if you know how to ask the questions. For example, I'll show you this wonderful map that I just got, actually, part of the recent collecting push. It's Etienne Turgot's map of Paris from 1739, before the huge boulevards were blasted through in the 1840s. So it's really a look at the medieval city. It's a big map, but it's actually, we're seeing it full size now on these screens. It's about 12 feet by 9 feet. As we zoom in, we can see the cartouche. You see the wonderful resolution of these screens, courtesy of Cinemassive, who I don't want to neglect. Cinemassive, and Damon Alvord is here. That's the servers that run everything in the back room, and also our friends from LG. As we zoom into the area around Notre Dame, you see how the engraving just comes alive. And you get closer and closer. Mr. Turgot had the permission of the king to get into all the backyards and all the gardens and into the buildings. So the detail is quite reliable and fantastic. One of the things that we noticed looking at this, and this is just a new discovery, let me go back. Sorry, 1 second. Oops, technology, you have to love it. These piles of wood, I wondered what they were, and I did some research. This is how Paris was heated. There's vast wood piles up and down the river with boats to distribute them. Of course, you can read about the wood in texts, but when you see the wood on the maps, the piles, the people handling it, it just comes alive in a whole new way. So this is the kind of thing that we hope will be possible with these screens and with the digitization that we're doing. I think this example illustrates that while we're joining many of the great map centers that are in the United States, the Osher Map Library, the Leventhal Map Center, and I know the new president of Leventhal is here, and we want to welcome her. We expect our center here to be a little different, definitely much more on the cutting and bleeding edge. We will make mistakes of the technology part of this whole journey. We're doing things like a laboratory. We will find that some things will fail, we'll rework, we'll analyze, reanalyze. We hope to bring Stanford's strong position in computer science into this room because we want maps to be read by computers. It's the way that we can tease out and put into tabular form, into all of the gazetteers, the names, and this is quite complicated. People have been at it for a while, and we hope that Stanford will take a real lead in this. We're also starting our work with virtual reality. We want to get Stanford students to get involved with showing us how we can use the virtual world to explore maps, to create maps in the virtual world. Maps have always had a technology component. They've always been about science and technology. Paul Sappho's amazing instruments here show us that these maps were made with tools of science. So we feel very at home at Stanford, and part of Stanford's growing movement to combining computer science with the humanities, and we want to be at that nexus. I've had a wonderful time looking at some classes that have been involved with maps. Professor Grant Parker, who will be presenting here tomorrow, his seminar on what is a map. I remember a freshman, a computer science major, who was taking Grant's class. He did a map of his family's home country of Sri Lanka, and he wondered how he might be able to combine his major with this newfound passion. So we want him to come here, and we hope that we'll be able to support him. We really want undergraduates to be here. We have the touch screen here, our giant iPad. it's really meant for undergrads to come up here and just start doing something. They don't have to fill out a pink slip, get a special dispensation to look at some of the rare, real stuff. We're very grateful to Stamen and Eric Rodenbeck and his team for creating these wonderful screensavers that you see behind Eric there on the touch screen. We don't want our screens ever to be dark, so this will keep them constantly interacting. Finally, I want to thank my wife Abby for constant support, advice, guidance, and true partnership on this project. I think your grace and intellect are felt throughout the center. As a historian, she has a special appreciation for the role that collectors play in saving our planet and sharing my joy in knowing that the map library she saw grow in our home in San Francisco will have such an enduring place here. She will be deeply involved also in our preservation efforts and in the programming itself. I'm also very grateful for many of my friends who are here from not so much my mapping life, but my whole life, really. And I'm so pleased that you've come to share this with me. It's very meaningful. I'd like to thank Steve and Roberta Denning for taking time out of, I know their very busy calendars, to officially dedicate the center on the part of the Board of Trustees, where Steve is chair. Steve and I have the good fortune to have worked with each other long ago, in the early 80s, along with Michael Karasik, who is here, and Dave Smith, who I believe is here. There is Dave. Dave bravely tried to bring our wonderful mentor and partner, Chuck Feeney, here, but Chuck had to give his regrets, and we hope he'll come for a tour some other time. We were all part of the beginning of Atlantic Philanthropies, and it makes a great difference to have you with me here tonight. So Steve and Roberta, the generosity and the commitment that you've given to Stanford's inspiring to both Abby and to me. And thank you, Steve, for your continued support of the center. It's an honor to be an adopted member of the farm. So, and my thanks to you. You've been an amazing partner. You're known in the library world as somebody that moves fast and you just have to keep up with. And that's been a thrill. Whenever we had a new idea for the center, Mike would say, well, that's great, but how about this also? So you're not anybody who holds back. You really embrace the vision that I had, which means so much. So thank you, Mike, and thank all of you. Thank you very much.
David, Abby, and University Librarian Michael Keller. It's a pleasure to join all of you here today. Ooh, better not push that. Representing the Stanford University Board of Trustees, and also, as David mentioned, recognizing my long-term friendship with David. The David Rumsey Map Center is a remarkable achievement, and I congratulate David and Mike for creating a partnership and a vision that will have a profound impact on the teaching, learning, and research at Stanford. Having had the pleasure, as David said, of knowing each other since the 1980s, that is, we were working as colleagues in 1981, I know his passion for cartography quite well. We both, as he mentioned, had the enormous benefit of working in a company founded by Chuck Feeney, one of the world's great philanthropists, and someone who was resolutely committed to giving while living to improve the human condition. He left an indelible imprint on both of us, and we thank him for that. David's collection, with more than 150,000 rare maps, atlases, globes, and pocket maps surrounding us here in this room today, is one of the largest private map collections in the United States, and now it will be available for scholarly use here at Stanford. It's a remarkable gift that, combined with David and Abby's financial support to help build this center, exceeds $20 million, one of the largest gifts ever to the libraries and a very significant gift to Stanford. This center was specifically designed to appeal and draw in students and scholars from across many disciplines. From the moment you enter the staircase in the rear and you traverse across landscapes, city streets, countries, and continents, the maps are immediately accessible and tangible, and they are displayed intentionally throughout the center to encourage creation, exploration, and discovery. David has said on multiple occasions that he didn't want the center to be just a place for those who love maps. The vision is for this place to serve as a focal point, bringing together faculty from the arts, the humanities, the sciences, engineering, and including the professional schools to interact and incorporate cartographic and geospatial materials into their research and teaching. The Map Center's multidisciplinary focus aligns perfectly with that collaborative culture that we have between students and faculty here at Stanford. Stanford is unusual among our peer institutions in having 7 schools on one integrated campus, no river, which naturally facilitates interdisciplinary collaborations. We have 40 degree programs that currently cross departmental or school boundaries. If we are to solve some of the world's complex challenges like climate change, pandemics, or geopolitical crises, it requires that we bring together different types of knowledge from disparate academic disciplines. And since nearly all societal and global issues occur in a place, maps become a key tool for our scholars. I want to emphasize what was said before, that the juxtaposition of technology and physical objects is what differentiates the Rumsey Map Center from the other map centers in our country. The Rumsey Center has the capacity to pull in one of David's georeferenced historical maps, as he indicated, and lay it on top of a modern-day Google Earth image. The result will reveal the geographic changes of that place over time. Now imagine an urban studies class standing around the huge screen behind me as historic maps in lieu of Paris would be of San Francisco are laid over a modern-day map of San Francisco. Most obvious to the class might be the changes to the waterfront and other physical aspects of the city. But as they study the maps more closely, the social, economic, and cultural history of that time also becomes apparent, demonstrating the value of geospatial data to our scholarship. In addition to the great scholarly contributions this center will make, it will also begin to prepare our students for their being part of a workforce in the digital era and for their being members of society in the 21st century. One of David's major determinants when he was considering where to donate his collection was how the maps would be displayed. According to him, he didn't want the maps to be just simply locked in a vault. He wanted people to be able to easily see and visualize the maps, as is apparent today so vividly in this room. It is apparent that this objective has been accomplished. The David Rumsey Map Center is poised to become one of the preeminent map libraries in the United States, and we thank both you and Abby, David. It is easy to imagine curious minds entering this space and exploring the lands that were and imagining the world that might be. This center aligns with Stanford Library's trajectory of innovation and to the mission of its dedicated and devoted staff, many of whom Mike showed on the screen earlier this afternoon. And let me also express my deepest gratitude to all of you in the audience who joined with David and Abby to make this center a reality for our students and our faculty. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of Stanford University, it gives me great pleasure to formally recognize the David Rumsey Map Center at Stanford Libraries on this, the 19th day of April. I thank David and Abby for their vision and the generosity that made the center a reality, and now offers our faculty and our students this interdisciplinary center as a resource. It will have an enduring impact on the scholarship conducted here at Stanford University. So thank you very much. I now invite all of you to experience the wonders of this collection. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Roberta, for joining us. Thank you all for joining us. We have some time now. I encourage you to wander around the room. Those who are staff members here should raise your hands, because these are the folks who can help interpret what you're seeing, what you might see. Please, and Sappho, you need to come back over here and explain your instruments, please. And also realize there's a really wonderful exhibit put together by our team, including especially Becky Fischbach over there, who is our exhibits curator. Thank you, Becky, again. The title of that exhibit is A Universe of Maps. It's dedicated to David and Abby and to their work. It displays a small fraction beyond this small fraction of everything that we have in the collection, much of which is, of course, a gift from David and Abby. We're going to have another 200 people joining us downstairs in a few minutes, and some of them will filter upstairs. So do visit the exhibit. There will be more food and more drink, actually food and drink, downstairs at 6. Thank you all for coming. Please stay and wander around and let the staff of this great Rumsey Map Center show off what we have here for you. Thanks for coming.